here again to talk more about that first visit and update you where we're at and keep this whole journey going. Took a nice clean shave, got a nice haircut, brand new me. I thought that first visit was going to be so simple, so straightforward. I mentioned this before that I thought I had all the questions already in the back of my mind. I figured I knew everything I was going to ask. And I think most people do. I think you've been around long enough, you know what's going on, you know where you want things to go, but that's just not life. Things don't always happen the way you really want them to. Gonna ask about patient base, the insurance schedule, how his schedule runs, about the staff, how he does charting, how he does OSHA and HIPAA, and how does the office just work? And I guess I got some of those in. I did talk about some of that. I did ask, but what I realized as we were there for those 2 hours or however long he and I chatted for is the practice is more than just this logistical items. Yes, we will get to those logistical things. Yes, we'll get to the numbers and the papers and the equipment, but it's more about listening to him tell his story, how the practice exists, what he's done there, what his career has been about, what makes things go. Tell me about his patients, have him tell me about his different employees, what makes everyone tick. This is his story. The practice is the result of 35 years of sweat equity, of his life put into this place. And that will be what makes more of a difference than any spreadsheet telling me of his P&Ls, of his financial statements, or anything else. Obviously, at this point, school was still top of my mind, so I maybe didn't do as much digging in as I potentially could have done going in. Afterwards, I realized, man, what a great opportunity. What a great starting point. This office could be the one. This could be where I want to make it all happen. If, when, maybe the other stuff doesn't work out. This was also and something I've talked about is just a very different vibe than the other office, being a different location, different city, different community, different dental offices around the area, not packed in there with a lot of them. He had sent out some information to my friend, so I had a general sense of what the office was doing, what it was like, what he was asking for, what it was making. And so with that in mind, I knew right off the bat that maybe I was more inclined towards this office. So maybe that skewed my view of the other office, maybe. Who knows? I was thinking that this would be that kind of conversation. I'd be in and out, half hour, talking about those hard numbers, what he was really expecting, what he was really looking for. I really didn't expect to spend 2 hours listening to him go on about where his practice came from, where he got his start, how he had traveled around before he'd bought a practice, how he came to this practice. But those are important informational details that created what he's at now. And I think one thing we should always remember when we're potentially taking over an office is why. Why does he practice the way he does? What brought him to that philosophy? Why is he looking to get out? What prompted all of these things? And so taking the time to listen is far more important than asking the questions at that moment. Again, now we're a month and a half past, at least past that first visit, and I've had the chance to ask all the other questions and lots of emails back and forth, phone calls, second visits, third visits to check out the equipment, to go through his books, to go through Dentrix. And so that first visit really shouldn't have a whole lot to do with that. And I think that's really what I pulled away from this first opportunity to meet him, was just to sit down and talk and to listen about how he was ready to be done because lease was coming up again and he didn't want to sign for another 5 years plus an extra 5 if that was what he was going to do. He had a friend pass away last couple years, actually while practicing dentistry in the chair, and now couldn't do the things he'd wanted to do with his wife and all the travel and things, and he didn't want that to be him. He wanted to enjoy his career and enjoy the fruits of what he'd created and go and enjoy life. And those were two big key things that were pushing him out the door. And so he now realized he needed to step on the gas and find someone to come in and take over, had to be the right person, had to be the right fit. And so that's where he was at. And he was also ready to get out of California. He'd been here long enough. He wasn't a California native and wanted to go back to home state. And those are all little details that if you just step in and buy, you don't understand where he's coming from, what he's actually looking for. And you could step on his toes. You could turn him off to wanting to sell to you. So taking those, again, 2 hours was what it was for us, but those few minutes where he's sharing those details, so then you can pull back to those, pull on those threads, share your understanding of why he's there, why you want to be the person to help him through that transition, to make it easier for him to get out. Now, as much as he's saying these things, you're also thinking about the transition yourself. If you were to step in, do you want him to stick around for 6 months to work off like a buyback or a transition period? Does that matter? Will his patients care? Are they bought in? Are his staff that way? And so those are things obviously that you're going to be concerned about, that I'm concerned about, and that he and I have had conversations about how we want that to go. But you don't know those things without having listened to where he's at, where he's wanting to go, that part of the story. Obviously, part of it is, what does his staff do? What are his hours? And are they different? Do they mesh with what you're thinking as you step in? As he walk around, he talks about his equipment, how he does his dentistry. Do you do those same procedures? How much overlap happens? If you do other things, do you have the time in the schedule? Is it available? How much being referred out? Do you want to take some of those patients back? Is there opportunity to grow? All of those things should be somewhat organic, especially in this first visit. You're not, again, having now done this, obviously once here, but been in offices where the expectation had been to potentially take over. The first visit really shouldn't be this hard-nosed drive towards numbers, towards how many active patients does he have, how busy is his schedule, how far out is he booked, how much is he referring. Again, those might come up organically in the conversation, but they're not, I think, the key to what you're looking for as part of this visit. What I could have done better, obviously, I could have researched him more, dove into his website, gotten to know him a little bit better. Future story I'm going to talk about is how his former hygienist is now a coordinator for the CE department at the school. And so I got a chance to visit with her and get her take on the practice. So finding those little things would have been nice beforehand, and I could have done that if I had really dug in. And I could have spent some time getting to know the demographics for the city he's in, for what the community's like, how affluent, or what's the payer mix, or something. Again, those aren't necessarily make or break questions to know, but it's also nice to have kind of a background of who you're going to be taking care of, and being able to talk to him about those things and his experiences with the community and his experiences with his patients. Where do they come from? Why do they come? What are they looking for? Do they care about insurance? All of those things are going to matter and are good leading questions to have him talk more about the practice and his story. And that's really what this first conversation needs to be, is his story, the practice's story, what's driving it all. So then you can come back with, this is how I best fit and can help you make your transition, how your patients can transition with me to their next step. And this is really what it is. that this visit is get to know the person, not just the numbers of the office. Just because the office has chairs and charts and equipment and numbers, he is the reason it all exists, and that it will thrive if you make that transition with him possible. I hope you guys have enjoyed the journey so far. I look forward to having you continue to the next video, which I'll dive more into the next steps as we get into kind of a transition link, as I bring in someone to help me figure out all these numbers, and we go back for a second visit. And yeah, we'll end it with that. I'm going to leave a link for my Substack if you want to read more about what's going on and where I'm at in the journey. It'll be fairly close per video, at least here in the beginning, and then you can enjoy the ride. May the floss be with you, as you can't be a dentist without saying something about floss. All right, guys, take care.